Good afternoon, Mustangs. Here for a Facebook Live this afternoon. I hope you like our new little prop for a microphone. Makes me feel like FDR talking to you. We're hoping to continue to grow our audience on Facebook, but one thing I've really liked about going live with Mustang Voices is for those of you who are on it now to be able to follow along real time, and those of you who may not be able to at work or some other place that you can watch it later. Hopefully some of you are in a car rider line getting ready to pick your kids up at the campus and they had a great day at school, and you can watch us while you're sitting in your car. We missed our last one because of a weather cancellation, and Melda ruined our day for the Facebook Live, and just want to point out before we get into our main topic how important that makes. Signing up for Skyward alerts, texts, emails, to be able for us to be able to communicate with you. We put our notices out on social media as well, so important to follow along on Facebook or Twitter. Those things are going to go out. You know, we use a lot of information. I sent a letter, hopefully you got to see it, about that decision process. And really our goal is to make a call if we can before 5 a.m. There's a lot of pieces that go into a decision like that. And so want to make sure you're signed up for those. I think that's the bottom line. I want to thank those consistent listeners of those of you who've tuned in, and want to make sure you understand the process. Those of you maybe haven't, that if you have a question, to just put it in the comments section, and we have some folks here that will answer your questions. Glad to have our intern Jillian's in here with us, who's been interning with the communications department. Say hi to everyone, Jillian. She'll be in here, and Miss Owens in here to be able to answer questions. So today I want to talk about our Citizens Advisory Committee. Just walk through that process a little bit. This will be something that we'll be coming back to talk to you about as well. Just give you an update on what's been discussed and where you can go to stay updated. So I'm going to start with that first. We have a web page on our website that's dedicated to the Citizens Advisory Committee, and I'm going to ask Dana if she'd maybe flip the phone around and just show the website on one of our on our Jamboard up here. And as you look at that that's what you would see on the website under the Parents and Students section. Probably the most important piece is on the right-hand side, the meetings. They're all listed, and underneath those will be the agenda, any presentation that we have, and then the follow-up minutes to those meetings. The dates are set up. Who makes up the committee is also listed on there. This is a great place for you to look and watch the process of this Citizens Advisory Committee go through their meeting process, really. So I want to talk a little bit about that. The long-range facility plan is a driver on this. So back in January 2018, we went through a process, and our board selected a firm to create a long-range facility plan. And PBK was the architectural firm that was chosen when we went through that process. And they worked for over a year on assessments of every piece of FISD property, our buildings, from the plugs and the lights, the air conditioning systems, all the systems, using engineers and different professionals, to sitting down with our administrators, our staff, the users of the facilities, to talk about some large projects that may come out of needs that are driven by that needs assessment. So from that, after the long-range facility plan was put together, was shared with the board in January of 2019, we reviewed as a team, reviewed the maintenance needs, those large projects, and from that, the board establishes a Citizens Advisory Committee and a charge for that committee. And this also comes right out of our strategic plan, our goal number 5, to strategically allocate resources for facilities that promote authentic learning experiences and real-world opportunities. So as part of our strategic plan, this long-range facility plan was put together to look at that specific need. So the board approved a committee of 44 members that's made up of a wide range. We have students, community members that are on our district committees that put their names in the hat basically if they wanted to be a part of it. The board submitted a list of names to us. 3 administrators are on that team. We have teachers from each campus and a couple teachers from the high school as a larger campus. And then we have community members that were just chosen at random. We sent out a Skyward notice, which again makes Skyward alerts. Be sure you're signed up for those. An email to say if you want to be part of it, send your name in. We pulled names out of that hat. Nearly 80% of that committee is made up of community and students. So another key part is the charge that was given to that community, that group, their walking orders. So the charge that was given to them was to review the long-range plan, which was an advantage to not start from scratch in terms of what are the needs. The long-range facility plan lays out all the needs down to a very fine degree of detail in terms of the maintenance piece, the large projects. And so they have a document that we're able to start with, that the board's looked at, the board's approved, agreed with. I think that's an important thing to note in the start of this process. And then from that to develop a bond recommendation of under or around $125 million. And so why that number? That number was to give context to that committee, and it came directly off a presentation from our tax attorneys in terms of a tax rate, kind of an idea of a tax rate number, that the board felt like that would be something, a good starting point for us, a good place to start, because it's ultimately going to be the board's decision on if we even move forward with the recommendations of this committee. But it would at least give us some parameters to work around. Their charge is to position us for the future. I'm going to talk about growth here just in a little bit, and that's a big piece of this Citizens Advisory Committee, and also that can be supported by our FISD community. So as these community members come together, they're representing all of you in terms of the groups, the people that they're around, and being able to support those needs. Those are exciting times for us. This is an exciting time for Friendswood. We're going to have 8 meetings every other week. The last meeting is going to be in December, and our recommendation that comes out of that committee will be at the January 13th board meeting. So we've had 2 meetings so far, and our first Mustang Voices was going to be after that first meeting, but we had to reschedule it. So we've had the first meeting and the second one earlier this last week. And so I wanted to talk about what happened in those 2 meetings. You can read the agendas, you can get all the background off of the website that I talked about earlier. But the first meeting was really just a setup meeting in terms of setting the stage for what's ahead. We talked about previous bonds. Amber Petrie, our CFO, went through all of our previous bonds. The last one was considered in December of 2005. Which has been quite a while ago. And from that last bond, probably a lot of you remember the junior high. The new junior high came out. We had some additions to the high school. Westwood and Klein had renovations done to them. The natatorium was built. The district technology, we had some district technology that was added. So we went through all of that, and then Amber again went through School Finance 101. And the idea that facilities come out of a completely separate bucket of the taxes that we pay, that the money that's for what's called the Interest and Sinking Fund or INS fund are just set aside for facilities. Those monies that would be passed in a bond referendum and a specific cent part can't be used to pay for salaries or electricity or for needs on the campuses, that it's specifically for what the community votes for in a type of bond referendum. So we went through that piece, and I think that's an important piece. We'll talk probably more about that as we get through this year. The second thing that the meeting number 2 was really focused on 2 things. Teaching and learning in today's environment, our strategic plan, and our call to action for authentic experiences and relationships, the type of learning that we want to see as we redefine success through our goal 2. Talked a lot about career tech courses at Friendswood High School, the expansion of those, the expansion of spaces to be able to teach those in a way that's engaging, that puts modern technology and modern learning methods in the hands of our students. And then secondly was to look at a demographic study, which is really important. This year in Friendswood, we grew by over 130 students. It's been 20 years since we've grown that much. We've just been basically at a flat growth rate over the last 20 plus years. And so that growth has been in the southern zone and the south zone, our elementary zone that takes in Klein and in Winsong. But the piece that came out this year was the big growth was in the number of kindergarten classes, of kindergartners. Westwood had a tremendous growth in their kindergarten class. We had to add teachers over there. And it has a very similar number to what Klein in the South Zone with the larger developments coming in has. So we're up 130, and most all of those kids are in those elementary classes and campuses. We're up about 50 students at Klein, and we're up nearly that same amount at Westwood from where we were a year ago at this time. And so as that growth moves up, we went through a demographer's report for the next 10 years and saw that our southern zone, because of Friendswood Trails out by Sun Meadow, Avalon, a development going in close to in the back of West Ranch by a school site that we have in the back of West Ranch, and Sterling Creek, all of those are growing. If you want to see that full demographic report, the key slides are be on that Citizens Advisory Committee website, but we had a report from them in September. It's on our board docs. You could go to our website and look at that last board meeting and see that full report to get all the background for that. But that was a key piece of what we looked at. Then we'll move forward in the future over the next few meetings. Our next meeting is going to be actually at Klein. We're going to go do a walk of Klein. A visit, field trip, if you will, and talk about our elementary, intermediate school needs. We'll be taking a tour of all of our other facilities on a Saturday coming up. Then we'll have a meeting at Friendswood High School. We'll do a tour of the high school and look at the needs of that facility. And then we'll spend some of our next meetings talking about technology, safety, the matrix of priority 1 needs for the campuses, and then begin putting together a process for consideration of what this committee feels like our needs are. So follow along with the website. We'll give you some updates in the weeks to come about what's going on with that Citizens Advisory Committee. Stay tuned to our social media pages. Our communications department will be putting things out. You'll be reading things. We'll probably in Mustang Voices along the way. That'll always be a piece of letting you know where we are, but we don't want it to be a mystery of what's going on with the Citizens Advisory Committee or a surprise in any way as we go forward. Any questions, Ms. Owen, that I need to hit right now?
Will you remind them that if they're watching this later this evening, go ahead and put your questions in there and we'll follow up.
If you didn't hear that, some of you are going to watch it later this evening, and if you do and you have questions, go ahead and pop them in there even later after we're off of the air, and we'll answer those online too, so then you can follow the stream and the strands and see what it is that you have questions. If you have questions, those are probably things we need to address with our committee or be sure the rest of our community is aware of. A couple quick announcements on some other items. So I want to highlight October 18th, our elementary teaching and learning department, our elementary campuses and intermediate are sponsoring a literacy lunch and learn at the boardroom. They're going to serve Gina's chicken Alfredo, and we all know chicken Alfredo is pretty good. Right now we have 37 who's RSVP'd. If you want to RSVP for that, if you'll email Lauren Ambo, and Dana, let's put her email address on this when you get a chance. Lauren L. Ambo at fisdk12.net. And one of the things what they're going to be looking at is our new literacy assessment called the BASS. We've moved from DRA to the BASS, and you'll be seeing it on reports home. You've likely gotten some reading reports on our initial BASS assessment. And it's a different assessment. It's going to really drive individualized learning, which is a part of our strategic plan. And you may have some questions about it. The other thing that's going to be helpful is they're going to talk about helpful hints for you at home. Having 2 kids of my own, we're reading to our kids every night, as best we can in the midst of all of our activities. But what they're going to talk about will be strategies when they're skipping words or a book seems too easy that comes home, how the reading levels work, so that you have some good context for doing the learning at home with them, with furthering their literacy development. They're also going to talk a little bit about what happens in the literacy block, kind of the behind the scenes look at the thinking behind the instruction. I think it'd be really beneficial for you to get a look at that. And again, if you'll RSVP for that, but if you come up on the 18th, and I didn't put a time on this, so we'll pop a time for that on the bottom of this in the comments section. But if you come up on October 18th and you've forgotten to RSVP and you see that you can come, just come. We want to have you there and share that information with you. That's important. Another key thing, we talked a little bit about the storm. We missed our last Mustang Voices because of the storm, because of Imelda. Schools now are run by minutes versus days. So the total number of minutes have to come up to a specific total. And we have in our calendar had built in enough minutes that the Wednesday that we missed the full day, we have enough minutes that does not have to be made up. Now, Lord willing, we don't have any ice storms or any other flood events come through this school year, but if we do, then we'd have to consider makeups. And makeups are going to look like one of 2 things. They would look like added minutes onto the existing school day. You take how much time you have left and figure out if we add minutes on to the beginning and the end of the day, if we have to add 5 minutes, what does that get the total to? Does it get it to the total that we have to turn into the Texas Education Agency? Or maybe we take a staff development day in. Hesitate to do that. Teacher learning is very important as it relates to the student performance. You wouldn't want a dentist or a doctor who hasn't gone through professional learning to keep updated to work on you, and we feel the same way about our staff. Friday night, we have a lot of events going on tomorrow. And so up at Friendswood High School, we have a swimming event, we have a home volleyball game, we have a football game that involves a patriotic halftime show that will involve a lot of our students. It's exciting to have that many students. I should have probably counted how many we'd have involved, which is really important to us. But parking is going to be really difficult. We have 2 shuttles. They run all night. They go out of Friendswood Junior High at the back of Centennial, and then one at Westwood Bales parking lot. And we run enough buses that they run quick and they go up to the front door. So if that's something you want to go to, we'd love to have you get on one of those shuttles or wiggle your way in to try and find a parking place and make your way up to Winston Stadium to see that. One thing that's going to be pretty neat that's going to happen tomorrow night, we have 3 astronauts that are on the International Space Station. One actually, I believe, flew back home, is coming back home either today or it may be even yesterday. Nick Haig, Drew Morgan, and Luca Parmitano. But all of those families are Friendswood ISD families. We have their kids. They're part of our community and our team. And we've invited those families to come and be part of the coin flip. We're going to honor them, put them up in a box, and let them enjoy a Friendswood High School experience. But we're just glad to have them in our community. and want to honor them. So those are some big things going on in Friendswood ISD as we look to tomorrow. I'm just going to check with Miss Owen to see if there's any questions I need to hit before we sign off. Jillian, you good? You have anything else you want to add in?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. I think we're good here. Thanks for joining us, and hope to see you soon.